Afternoon, everyone. We are joining you live for this Ask Sheila event. And this week's theme is Ask Anything. So we've got all of your different chest and breastfeeding questions that go along with something that you might think be a little taboo or you might be a little nervous to ask. Sheila's got 30 years of experience that she can go through as an IBCLC and MPH to answer those questions. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce Sheila. And she is the CEO of Healthy Horizons, a role to which she brings 30 years of experience in providing lactation guidance and education. She's an internationally board certified lactation consultant with an MPH in public health education. So, welcome, Sheila. We're so glad that we could have you today.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, the title, Ask Anything. I hope you guys don't stump me.
All kinds of questions.
Yep.
So I'm going to, all right, I'm going to pull up our beautiful presentation here. We've got some of these questions were submitted online from different parents across the board. So I've got the first one here from Miriam, and Miriam asks, can my milk change colors based on what I eat?
Absolutely. You could have rainbow milk. And sometimes this is scary for parents because they'll pump and they'll see their milk looking greenish or bright orange and they'll think there's something wrong with it. But typically it's whatever you ate. So if you've been eating a lot of foods high in beta carotene, you might have orange milk. If you've been eating like sweet potatoes and carrots, if you've been eating things like seaweed and algae, you might have greenish milk. So it's totally fine, and it usually goes away after a couple hours. But if you're nursing directly, you're not going to notice it, right? But it's when you're pumping you're going to see that. So perfectly fine to have rainbow colored milk.
That could be really fun when they're storing milk in their freezer to have all the
Right?
different colors of the
Like, oh,
rainbow.
this is the day I had pad thai, and this is the day when we had sushi.
Well, I'm so glad you've normalized that for parents because I know that could be quite the surprise if it's coming out green or orange, like you're
Right.
saying. So the next question that we have here is from Kayla, and Kayla asks, I have inverted nipples, and I was wondering that I'm a little bit nervous about breastfeeding will be difficult or impossible for me. Is that true?
Absolutely not true. So nipples change throughout pregnancy and as lactation starts. So you may have inverted nipples during pregnancy, but they may come out right after the baby's born. So things can change. The good news is that a baby doesn't latch on to the nipple itself. The baby latches on deeper to the areola, and that's why they call it chest or breastfeeding, not nipple feeding. So the baby needs to get deeper. Some parents will, if they're having some issues, maybe use a breast pump once the baby's born to help bring the nipple out a little bit, or they might use a nipple shield if they really are having trouble with initial attachment. But babies can learn to latch to the areolas perfectly. So I just would suggest that you start working with a lactation consultant right away. That way you could get off to a really good start.
Oh, nice. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I like how you differentiated between nipple feeding and chest or breastfeeding. That makes a lot of sense. So Rosalind asks, I have implants. Is it okay for me to still breastfeed my baby when he arrives this fall?
Absolutely. Implants will not affect breastfeeding, but sometimes the surgeries can have an impact. So it depends on how the surgeries were done. If the implant is behind the chest wall, if the surgery was done through the armpit, or if it was done around the areola or underneath. So depending on where the incisions were, sometimes can impact. If it was done around the areola, there's a lot of nerves there. And sometimes that can impact things a little bit. So you always want to make sure your lactation consultant knows that you did have breast surgery and then what type of breast surgery you had so they could work with you early on to make sure you have a good milk supply. But in general, you should do fine with implants.
No, that's really good for parents to know. Good. So Alex asks, should I wash my nipples before breastfeeding?
You do not need to wash your nipples. What I would say is in the morning, whenever you take your shower, it's fine to soap your body up and let the water just rinse. And that's all you need to do. If you are sick, that's a whole different story. You wouldn't need to wash your nipples, but you would want to wash your hands before, and you would want to mask up so you don't breathe on the baby, but your nipples are fine.
No, that's good to know, especially this day and age as far as COVID and everything. I'm glad that you covered that it's not necessary for the nipples for sure. Yeah, my left breast isn't producing as much milk as my right. Is there any way to help this? And will they return to normal size after weaning? They are much different sizes now.
So oftentimes one breast becomes the super breast. And with the next pregnancy, it can actually switch. So that's not uncommon. Oftentimes it's because of the early stimulation that breast received. Maybe the baby was nursing more on that side and latching better, and that side got programmed to make more milk. What some people do is they sometimes will pump the other side to get the milk supply up a little bit to equalize things. But it's fine to have one side that makes more than the other. It's not an issue. After breastfeeding and chest feeding is over with, the breast will return to normal size.
That's really good for parents to know that it'll return after breastfeeding. Good. So the next question that we have is from Shay, and Shay asks, how long will milk stay in my breast after weaning?
So it's really dependent on how long you are actually breast or chest feeding. If you are breast or chest feeding for, let's say, a year or longer, you could have milk in your breast for years. Now, I'm not talking the kind of milk that is like leaking out and you're feeling engorged. I'm talking if you maybe did a little bit of hand expression and you saw a little bit of glistening or a little bit of milk on the tip of your nipple. Um, the milk producing tissue really develops during pregnancy and lactation, and with each pregnancy, it develops more. So you have a higher chance of having milk longer with your other pregnancies, right? So don't worry if you see some milk, it's normal. And it could take, if you breastfed maybe 6 months, it could probably take a couple months for it to totally go away.
That's good to know. 1 to 2 months is a good expectation for parents to have. Wonderful. So the next question that we have here, after drinking a beer, how long do I need to wait before feeding my baby?
Well, the good news is blood alcohol matches the amount of alcohol that's in breast milk. So the alcohol in a drink like this would probably peak around an hour or so after consuming it. And so by 2 hours, it should pretty much be out of your system. So if you really want to be 100% sure that the alcohol's gone, wait 2 hours. You don't need to pump and dump during that time. It's not going to get the alcohol out of your system or your breast milk. So I would say wait a couple hours. A drink here and there is not considered typically an issue. So if you wanted to have that half a glass of wine with dinner here and there, it should be perfectly acceptable. Now, if you're going to have more than one or two, then you might want to think about like, will I be able to care for my baby? Will I be out of it? Right? So it's more about safety at that point than getting alcohol into the baby. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely good to differentiate being able to care, and then also if you have one, how long that would be in the system for.
Right.
So that's really good to know. So we've got 2 more questions left. Andy asks, I feel sleepy and a little off when I'm chest feeding my baby. Is this normal?
It's totally normal. There's a couple hormones that are actually in breast milk that can cause that feeling. One is oxytocin actually. And that's the love hormone, the hormone that you bond with, but it also gives you this calming feeling. And that can make people feel a little bit tired, but it's a good hormone. It regulates your heart rate and your blood pressure and does all sorts of good things. So we like that hormone. But that can make you a little tired. The other hormone is also called CCK, and that is cholecystokinin. And that one is produced also through breastfeeding, but also your gut produces it and it helps with satiety. But with breastfeeding, it makes you sleepy. The baby's gut also produces that during breastfeeding. So the baby becomes sleepy too. So you both could become sleepy, which is good. Then you can snuggle up and baby could take a nap and maybe you could take a nap too. But it's totally normal.
That's good. It's normal. Not a lot of questions are
Yeah.
commonly asked, and all our questions our parents submitted, and we do want to remind everyone that we are available on all the different social media channels: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We've got a lot of really cool events coming up for National Breastfeeding Month in August, and we'd like to thank everyone for coming to join us with Healthy Horizons, a mission to empower lactating parents at work and at home. Healthy Horizons is the first company to offer comprehensive lactation at work benefits at scale across North America and supports breastfeeding families with lactation consultants, support groups, and different baby products. Thank you so much for your time today, Sheila. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.